Hello and welcome back to All Things Money. I'm your host, David Blain. During this third and final segment of the show today, we're going to continue our discussion on the role of skill versus luck in investing. And it's a fascinating topic that I hope you've been able to follow along. If not, you can head over to our website, which is dlblain.com. We'll have some archives posted there of the show. We're not going to finish this all today either, so maybe we'll pick up on it next week. But as I've said throughout, it's a very important topic for everyone to understand, not just in investing, but in life, is understanding the role of skill versus luck in everything that we do, so that you can focus your time and effort on those things that you do have control over, and things that you don't have control over, focus on putting processes and systems in place to control, if you do have a run of bad luck or good luck, that it's accounted for. So in investing, as I was leaving the last segment, we were talking about ways to define, how do you know if something is luck or skill? And we looked at a variety of factors, and we finished up talking about the role of the mind in this, and that the left side of people's brain wants to attribute a positive outcome to skill and a negative outcome to luck. And the reality is that it's just not that quite clean of a line. So we'll talk about, a lot of people out there trying to pick stocks and bonds, and they look at, well, the strategy's performed well in the past, and so if I'm not working out, if my portfolio isn't making money, I'm just going to attribute it, to bad luck. And one thing is that when you're looking at something on the skill versus luck continuum, if skill is a very large part of it, then your output and your skill are very closely related to each other. So for example, if you're a highly skilled violin player and you're listening to someone play the violin, the output from that violin is very pleasing. It'll be a very pleasing song, very pleasing melody, and so there's a link between that skill and output. The same thing, watching someone play hockey. If you like hockey and you ever saw Wayne Gretzky skate, you could just see by watching him skate, around the ice, or a football quarterback or something like that. You can see, the difference between that skill involved. You can see the outcome. When you move over to the luck side of things, winning at the roulette table or the blackjack table or something like that, there's not a big distinction, or there's not a direct relationship between the skill and the output. It's very difficult to determine. And so when you're in a luck-oriented or on the luck side of the continuum, what you want to focus on is the processes, because the process is more important. You're operating in a probabilistic framework. That's what luck is probabilistic framework. So if you're betting on horses or roulette or investing or something like that, you want to focus on your processes, is the way that you're going to overcome a largely skill-based thing. And what do I mean by that? For example, in blackjack, and I'm not a gambler, so I don't know. I just know that there are standard ways to play hands. If you get 10 on your first card, or you get an ace or something like that, I know that there's a process that you should follow to ask for another card or stand pat or whatever. Now, you could play your cards perfectly according to the strategy, and you could still lose. On the other hand, you could keep saying hit me and keep getting a bunch of 2s and 3s and hit 21 and win by doing everything wrong. So the connection between the skill and the outcome is broken. You could have done everything right, playing your hand like you're supposed to, and still lose. So if you have a process, if you're operating over here on the luck side of the continuum, you got to look, first of all, at, has this process worked in the past? And that's where we see a lot of things in investing. We looked at, has it worked in the past in the U.S.? Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to work going forward, but it can be a good indication. Has investing in a diversified portfolio worked in the past? Have small companies over long periods of time outperform large companies? Have value companies outperformed? Has this worked in Europe? Has it worked in Japan? Has it worked in emerging economies? all these different things, looking at has it worked in the past. And number two, does it have some economic basis? So for example, if you go out at night and you say, oh gosh, it's cloudy tonight, so tomorrow the market's going to go down. And then the next day you look out, oh, it's a clear sky, so tomorrow the market's going to go up. That's not an economically sound theory. If you studied this for a year and you found that 98% of the time, if it was cloudy, the next day the market went down, that's pure luck. I mean, there's no economic connection between those two things. So you got to look at that. Number one, has it worked in the past? And is there some sort of plausible theory of economics or investing that could be applied there? And if there's not, then it's pure chance or luck. The second thing is when you're looking at your processes, you have to look at a couple of things. Number one is analytical. Having situations in which you believe that something the world doesn't believe, but you have a good foundation for that belief. So in investing, if you believe what everyone else does, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that information is not going to give you an edge. So some sort of what's your analytical process to come up with your solution to your investing problem? Do you have that analytical process? The second, looking at your process, is you got to understand there are inherent behavioral biases that we all have. And we make mistakes and we have cognitive biases, and your process has to be aware of those things and take them into account. That's why diversification is so powerful. That's why not looking at your portfolio on a daily basis is so powerful. Is when you design your process, you've got to understand what the behavioral biases are, what cognitive biases you have, and you've got to design your process to eliminate those and mitigate them. The third thing is looking at institutional biases, and although for an individual you're not part of an institution, you've got to look at things that some constraints in your personal life that wouldn't allow you to arrive at the optimal solution. We see this more often in companies and institutions, but it can happen with individuals. Well, that's about all the time we have for today's show. I hope you've enjoyed it. We've been talking about the role of skill versus luck in investing, and it's a very important topic to understand completely if you want to become a successful investor over the long term. So for All Things Money, I'm your host, David Blain, and we'll be right back here again, same time next week.
The proceeding was a paid program. The opinions expressed are not necessarily those of WNBU and Inner Banks Media.